Alright, Eagles game day right around the corner, and there's actually a sense of optimism around the Birds. What's up with the latest injury reports, and why will the Chargers' game plan be significantly limited? Meanwhile, the Philly offense has another perfect opportunity, but will they take advantage of it? In this video, I'll get you caught up on the latest around both sides, share the best picks and plays for Monday night, and go over the reasons Vic Fangio's pass rush is about to break out. So let's talk about it, but first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Do me a favor and smash the like button because we have more Eagles football on the horizon. And while you're hitting that like button, go ahead and let me know in the comments who you think the first touchdown scorer will be on the game on Monday night. Because like I do for every game preview, one person who gets that prediction right will win any jersey of their choice at the end of the game stream. Reminder, the Eagles do have to win the game, but I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. Go ahead, make your pick, and then come hang out while we cheer on the Birds to get back on track. Alright, for all the struggles and frustrations, the glass half full is that Philly has the fourth easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. Plus, like I touched on in the last video, the Eagles are incredibly well positioned to be the first back-to-back NFC East champs in 2 decades. Which, would mean they'd also host a playoff game.
Playoffs? You kidding me?
You're right, it doesn't matter if Kevin Patullo's offense can't put up any points. Yet it's funny because the vast majority of analysts are picking the Birds to beat the Chargers this week.
I don't know why they do that.
I will say this, vibes and momentum are a strange thing. And you gotta admit, for a team trying to repeat, it's kind of strange how much repeating we've had this season. Like, think about it. The Eagles started out with 4 straight wins, but then gave up a fourth quarter lead to the Broncos, only to follow that up on a short week and get embarrassed by the Giants. However, that led to a mini bye, the team regrouped and went on another 4-game win streak. And yet then gave up another fourth quarter lead the next time to Dallas, and then, just like 6 weeks prior, they got trampled on short rest by the Chicago Bears.
Do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster?
This whole season, not just the OC, but the team itself, has been the definition of predictable and insane. I mean, we keep asking for changes, but we haven't had much to show for it. However, I don't know if this is the changing it up enough for you, but the Birds are going with their all-white uniforms for Los Angeles. And you know what? If wearing the exact opposite of what they did on Black Friday can channel some sort of new creation for Kevin Patullo and his offense, then I'm all for it.
It's a straight and narrow from here on out.
I'm at the point where it does feel like it would take an act of God to change this offense. Of course, I believe in the impossible, yet it doesn't take supernatural eyes to see ways this offense could be better. And let me just say, despite Philly having some previous success at SoFi Stadium in LA, the odds are stacked against them finding it this week. Because the Chargers have held 4 of their last 5 opponents below 21 points. Although, just like Matthew DeLuca, who won the ticket giveaway via the randomized spinner from the last video, you never know. By the way, Matt, you know the drill, bro. I just need to hear back from you, so email me at thephillyspecialshow.com or DM me on one of the socials. I need to get your info from you and obviously which game you want to go to so that I can get the tickets sent over your way. Again, while it feels like KP would have better luck just drawing plays out of a hat, the Eagles have had an above-average efficiency on offense when they go no huddle. Yet that number crashes down to the bottom 10 in the league when they start huddling. Now, players have spoken about how the offense is best when in tempo for weeks, but when QB1 took the podium to emphasize the specific sequencing and rhythm of plays, you can feel the optimism rise.
In the end, but the sequencing is important. The structure and the organization of how we do things is important, and those have been all really good conversations in that. And again, we just with all those things that you do, it comes down to the work, and that's a big aspect in the work for us.
For the record, the Eagles also said they haven't given up on the running game and still plan to be a run-first team, under the notion that they're 1 block away from Saquon breaking out. Granted, like I've said and have seen you guys echo in the comments, they need to prove it to us first. Sorry, I am doubting it, but at least the Chargers are 23rd in defensive EPA per rush and 27th in defensive rushing success rate. That's right, LA is really good defending the pass because they often go to nickel packages with more DBs on the field, aka fewer players in the box, more room for blockers, and ultimately better success for running backs. Yet can someone tell me why I hear that? And I want to believe something, right? I want to have some positivity, but I hear that and my immediate thought or reaction is the Eagles are going to go heavy. They're going to put Can't Block a Terror on the field and make life incredibly hard on themselves for no reason.
Wouldn't surprise me in the least.
I want to believe in this team, but they have shown us so little evidence to actually go to that route. But again, you go back to the press conferences, hearing from Jalen Hurts, I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy into some of the subtle changes, at least as far as my plays this week. And if you want to do the same thing with the best option in fantasy sports, then all you got to do is scan the QR code or click the link in the description and get signed up with code PHILLYSPECIAL. I'm telling you, scan the QR code on your top right there, play $5 and get $100 in bonus funds. Plus, everyone on social media and subscribers got access to the plays for Thursday night, and we turned $50 into $700. And with the NFL playoffs right around the corner, Underdog's boosted payouts and bonuses are only getting crazier, so don't miss out on your chance to get signed up. All right, this week, we got to cook something up big. So, Eagles, Chargers, I said that I'm trying to buy into this. Jalen Hurts, he refuted the claims about not being willing to run, so I'm going to take that. Jalen Hurts over 27.5 rushing yards. Got to go with that one there. I said Saquon for the first touchdown score. It's actually plus money on this side, so I will take a Saquon Barkley. And then you do have to take an opposing player. So for me, I'm going to go with a Justin Herbert to throw an interception. The Eagles have had multiple turnovers, or at least one turnover for a quarterback the last several games, or I think 3 out of the last 4 games. So the pressure, the injury that he has, a little bit more maybe rushing decisions. I'm going to take Justin Herbert with the INT. So there you go. To recap the plays again, Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown, Jalen Hurts higher than 27 rushing yards, and Justin Herbert to throw an interception. As always, feel free to let me know what you think about those plays. Again, scan the QR code, use code PHILLYSPECIAL, get the bonus funds, play $5, $100 in bonus credit. And I do these plays every single week. Starting to get a little hotter now, but get signed up, link in the description. Now, you could probably say this every week in the NFL, but this matchup in particular comes down to the battle in the trenches. Because Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter really doesn't like to blitz much. And they have the second best pass defense in the league to show for it. Which I suppose that could be a good thing with Jalen Hurts actually ranking in the bottom half of the league versus the blitz since the bye week. I mean, QB1 is legit regressed in that area if we're talking about stats. Relax, that's obviously not all on him with the play calling either. Yet despite not blitzing, Minter's group has the NFL's 4th best sacks per pass attempt average. And Khalil Mack has really been heating up as he generated a season-high 6 pressures on just 13 pass rushes last week. FYI, that was his highest pressure rate in a game since at least 2018. And yeah, he's looking forward to the Eagles' challenge.
You can't really look at it any different in terms of matchups because I think of every team as nameless faces, objects, but just in terms of knowing who they have on that side of the ball, it's going to be a hell of a challenge, man, and we're looking forward to it.
Every week, it feels like we say this, but run the ball and make everyone's life easier. Although when the Birds' most unstoppable play can't even work, you know the alarms are at an all-time high. Yeah, over the last 3 games, the Eagles have attempted 8 tush pushes with just 2 conversions.
That's impossible.
Look, I get it. It sounds ridiculous, but when you added up the conversion rates, the ones they failed, and also the penalties, the Eagles are only converting at a 66% clip. So with the struggles of teams stopping it, Jalen's turnover last week, and refs calling it differently, QB1 hinted at a change incoming.
There are multiple ways to run the quarterback sneak. There are multiple ways to run a quarterback sneak. There are multiple ways to attack short yardage defense and short yardage opportunities when we have that. And over my six years of being here, we've done that in multiple ways. So just being able to have the versatility there when needed, and knowing that we have a great weapon and what we've been able to do with the quarterback sneak, but being able to build and just have all different things available in that. And those are things that are being discussed.
I hate to say it, but this one's shaping out to be another game that's won by the defense. Or at least on paper it is. Because the Chargers will be the worst offensive line the Eagles have faced all season, coming in at 31st. Heck, actually, the next 2 opponents will be, since the Raiders are 32nd in O-line gradings. Therefore, the Eagles' ability to get pressure on Justin Herbert against a makeshift Chargers offensive line has to be the biggest key of the game. Like Jimmy Kimsky said, Herbert has a broken left hand, and the more the Eagles can hit him, the more they can make him worried about getting hit more. Now, we can be honest, the Eagles' pass rush has been lacking the last 2 games. Personally, I chalk that up more to the fatigue. I've talked about this in other videos as well, but playing the most amount of snaps over the last 4 weeks from any defense in the NFL, or the second most amount of snaps, it adds or plays a factor at that point, but really, this week will tell the story. After all, the Chargers have used 19 different offensive line combinations this season. And since losing their starting tackles, the Chargers' passing offense has been completely non-functional, dropping from 9th in EPA per dropback to 28th in EPA per dropback. At the same time, if we're sitting here on Tuesday saying the Eagles couldn't generate pressure on the Chargers, then they probably lost the game. Yet the only way I see that happening is if they get gashed on the ground again, which, to be fair, isn't impossible, with the Chargers ranking 12th in rushing this season, and maybe more impactful, looking to get their top running back in Omarion Hampton. Not gonna lie, it hasn't mattered too much who's been back there running the football. They have been pretty good. But if Philly can't make Justin Herbert beat them, it could be a really long night. Especially with the latest injury updates now being official that Omarion Hampton will return for LA. Sure, the Chargers technically list him as questionable on their latest report, but Jordan Schultz reported the rookie is getting activated and will for sure play, along with Adam Schefter and a few other national writers suspecting the same thing. So like I said, it's going to be a challenge because Hampton's a dude who had 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 4.8 yards per carry average before he got injured. I still think the Birds can get it done, but that now marks back-to-back weeks where a key player returned from injury to play against Philly. FYI, Jalen Johnson, remember, returned for the Bears in Week 13. And now we have Omarion Hampton back for the Chargers. Also, I know there's some questions about Justin Herbert with the Chargers listing him as questionable, but the general consensus, even from beat writers, is that it's gamesmanship from LA. Anyway, the official injury report for the Eagles also offered a lot of optimism because we had Jaelan Phillips, who was dealing with a concussion, as a full participant, and he's not out. He's fully cleared, good to go. Same thing for Zach Bond, Landon Dickerson with the rest day previously, Jahan Dotson also for full participant. Marcus Epps, questionable there. It's interesting because he's been a full participant. Will they activate him? Is it going to be Sidney Brown? We probably are hoping that it's Epps. Keep you posted on that side. Xavier Gibson is a full participant, so I'm assuming that maybe he's back there. I'm not sure about that one. Miles Hinton also with a questionable mark, but really it's just Jalen Carter, Lane Johnson. Those are the expected ones, so best signs pretty much all around for the Eagles. By the way, the other thing to mention here is that with Herbert playing, there's an element to the Chargers game that will be significantly thrown off or very likely in terms of the under center plays. Of course, if that were the Eagles, it's no big deal. However, the Chargers actually run under center plays 30% of the time. So that's nearly a third of their offense that won't be there. Again, that's assuming that the hand fracture to Herbert's non-throwing hand keeps him gingerly holding the ball like he was in practice. With beat writers noting Herbert did align under center, but he didn't actually take any of those snaps. Now, on the flip side, the Eagles are going to be without Jalen Carter, you already know this, which hasn't worked out well in stopping the run game or really just defensive efforts in general. But be that as it may, defensive tackle Moro Ojomo did make a good point that unlike the 2 other instances, the team has known for a while that they wouldn't have JC, meaning they've been able to prep much better for how they can be effective without him in the lineup. Regardless, big matchup in primetime and still so many questions. So I had Eagles writer Anthony DeBona join to answer several of those and preview the rest of the game.
Even before the Jalen Carter injury, it felt like people were talking in recent weeks about Ty Robinson, like, where is he? Is he a bust? And I replied at that time on Twitter. I was saying, like, maybe we just had our hopes a little too high for a 4th-round pick. But everybody responded, like, oh, he was an older player. He was more, like, advertised as, like, a ready to go. Like, he would contribute right from day one. That obviously hasn't happened. But I mentioned how he's playing behind a bunch of talented guys. Even Byron Young, who's ahead of him and has been active ahead of him, was a former 3rd-round pick. I know he's not the biggest name in the world, but Ty Robinson hasn't been able to get his opportunities. But as you mentioned, in Week 6 against the Giants, the only game that we knew that Jalen Carter was going to be out of beforehand, he was active. He played 19 snaps. He had a pressure. He had a batted pass. Obviously, the Eagles got embarrassed in that game, so hopefully this will be a little bit of a different performance. But I do expect Ty Robinson to be active for the first time in several weeks, and I think he will contribute. How much will he play? How much of an impact will he have? We'll see, but we'll definitely see him on the field.
Okay. Well, like you said, we're not asking for a Ty Robinson sack necessarily, but the Vanilla Gorilla is too good of a nickname to not have him just make a play or two, right? So just something there, even if it's a pressure that leads to something else. We don't need to see the sack. It would be great, but I'm all for if Ty can get out there, make some plays, help the Eagles not necessarily have to rush back Jalen Carter. So we'll see if it's only a week or multi-week and everything else with the shoulder procedure. Nonetheless, they got to stop the running game. We got absolutely gashed against the Chicago Bears. The Chargers have been very good, especially considering that they've been without both of their top backs the last several weeks, and they've still figured out a way to run the football. Omarion Hampton feeling like there's a chance that he can come back and play, even if he doesn't, with the way they've been able to run the football. Can the Eagles limit and I guess maybe, at least a little bit better? They should have some sort of showing than what they did against Chicago.
Yeah, so for my 2 defensive matchups, that first one is simply, especially after that last performance that you talked about against the Bears, can the Eagles stop the running game? Because the Chargers, it looks like they'll be getting back Omarion Hampton, who was maybe potentially on his way to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, depending on the voting. He was looking like a really explosive player out of the Chargers backfield. But since the bye week, according to NFL Next Gen Stats, they got a ton of good information, especially this week. The Eagles have allowed 3.7 yards per carry with minus 51 rushing yards over expected between the tackles. So between the tackles, they've been very solid. But outside the tackles, and we saw this last week against the Bears, that's where the Eagles have been gashing the ground. They've allowed 5.9 yards per carry and plus 69 yards over expected. So, but luckily for the Eagles, the way the Chargers run the ball, this kind of plays into the Eagles' strength because 51.1% of their rushes have been between the tackles, which is the 10th most in the NFL this season. Could things change now with Omarion Hampton returning and Justin Herbert's injury, which we'll get into next? But, maybe they go more on the outside because they know how bad the Eagles have been in that area. Maybe they'll try and test those corners and the safeties and see if they can make those tackles on the outside. But, after that last week, it's hard to feel good about this Eagles run defense. But maybe if the Chargers play into their hand, the Eagles can kind of capitalize that. And then flipping to Justin Herbert, as I mentioned, he's going to be playing through that non-throwing hand. He went under surgery. He's going to somehow play, it seems like. But the Chargers offense looked a whole lot different after that injury. I know he stayed in the game last week, but they utilize a ton of play action. They utilize a lot of under center. But unfortunately, after that injury, Justin Herbert did not have a single dropback in that game from under center. And if you look at his numbers this season, he averages 6.9 yards per passing attempt from shotgun. But when he's under center, that jumps to 8.6 yards per pass attempt. So a significantly better kind of more explosive passing game and just a better passing performance overall when he's been able to be under center. So if Justin Herbert can't go under center, that's another big advantage for the Eagles defense that could kind of limit what Los Angeles can do.
When I think about as well, this is something you've shared for multiple weeks, especially against the Cowboys, but the Eagles defense not being good against play action, not that the Chargers can't run play action if they're not under center, but it's more effective when you're doing that. So for a team that runs under center 30% of the time, a third of their offense, if that is not an element in their game, we'll certainly take it because, it helps us from that side. But Vic Fangio, I'm believing him having a plan, figuring this thing out. He's made adjustments before. He has earned the benefit of the doubt. Kevin Patullo is a completely other story, but we do have to go there for offensive matchups and things like that. The Chargers' pass defense is really good, but can Jalen Hurts, because it feels like at this point in the season, week 14, KP is going to be what he is, but can Jalen Hurts do something against this Chargers defense?
And that feels like it's kind of been the topic of discussion, especially in recent weeks. It's like if the running game isn't going, can Jalen Hurts kind of take a bigger part of that burden and then shoulder that burden for the Eagles offense to kind of put that Superman cape on and carry the team? Has he been able to do it in recent weeks? Unfortunately, no, but it's going to be even tougher this time around against the Chargers because they do a lot of what Jalen Hurts has struggled with throughout his career. If you look at like their safety splits, they utilize split coverage shells on 50% of opponent dropbacks, which is the third highest in the NFL. And they also play a ton of cover four. They play cover four at a 28.9% rate, second highest in the NFL. Both that coverage and that split safety look is something that Jalen Hurts has struggled to produce against as a passer. But could this lead, because if we looked at in the past, especially last season, whenever the Eagles saw that split safety, that's when they would give the ball to Saquon Barkley and capitalize on the running game. Maybe Jalen Hurts would have more opportunities as a runner. We haven't seen that this season. But could this be the week that we bounce back? And that's exactly what I'm looking at with my second offensive matchup. Is
we ask it every week.
Maybe this is finally the Saquon Barkley bounce back game that we've been looking for. Barkley has struggled this season. Everybody's well aware of that. He's averaged just 2.7 yards per contact after contact per carry, which is the third fewest among running backs with 75 or more carries this season. It's crazy to think about how poorly Saquon Barkley has performed this season, but it's really because of everything else around him on top of him not maybe looking as explosive as he has in recent weeks. But the Chargers, once again, this is kind of something that plays into the Eagles' hands. The Chargers have allowed 3.5 yards after contact per carry in the NFL, seventh most of any team this season. And if you go back, I know they held that terrible Raiders rushing attack in check, which basically the Raiders do themselves. But the week before that, the Chargers got ran all over the field by the Jaguars. They allowed 192 rushing yards against the Jaguars in week 12. So we know what Saquon Barkley did the last time he was at SoFi Stadium. Granted, it was a different opponent, but we could finally see the Saquon Barkley breakout game that we've been waiting for.
I hope so. We're at the point where, he even said this on the live stream. They got to show us. They can't tell us anymore because they say there's new changes coming. Jordan Mailata said that earlier this week. Hey, there's a change. There's something exciting coming in the running game.
But wait, I have a theory real quick.
Okay.
Because we talked about him earlier.
Yes.
We talked about it after he was drafted. Could this finally be the week that we see some Ty Robinson at fullback snaps? Maybe this is that
Okay,
weird
hey,
wrinkle. Maybe this
sure,
is that weird wrinkle they're
please.
talking about.
He's going to be on the field anyway for defense. He'll be warm. Just keep him out there for the offense. It can't be worse. Yes. All right. I hope that you're right. I mean, honestly, as crazy as that is, it shouldn't be crazy to suggest this, but it still is. It's in the same category. Tank Bigsby, get him on the field. Run him the ball. Just 3 or 4 times. It's not even like we're asking for 10 carries, just 3 or 4 carries. Give him some sort of chance, some sort of opportunity. But yes, everybody else out there, we're not trying to gaslight you. It's like, oh, this is the breakout. We're not actually saying that. It's just, could this be for the 14th time this year? I don't know.
We're just laying out the information,
time, but
it's up to the Eagles to take advantage of the opportunity.
If they change something for once, we'll see. There's a lot of cautious optimism on my side, which we'll get to for the score predictions. I don't even think I've fully figured this thing out. I've got a couple more minutes to do that as we're recording this. But the Cowboys loss, that is something that's positive, something that certainly helped the Eagles' chances, even in the midst of this. Some people have already gone on to call it a collapse. Some people are in the process of collapsing for the Eagles. And there's still some out there, I've seen those, for optimism, thinking that there's a chance for these guys to turn it around. It does feel like it would take a miracle, something close to that, for the Eagles' offense, especially the way that they've played. But nonetheless, the Cowboys lost. The Eagles have everything in front of them and almost, not quite, but almost gift-wrapped the division for the Eagles.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about because it felt like if the Cowboys beat the Lions, that the hot seat on the entire Eagles organization just would have been even hotter, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy to think about. But luckily, the Cowboys did lose to the Lions, and things are a little bit calmer in Philadelphia. Now we'll see what happens this week, of course. But now Dallas's odds to make the playoffs have dropped to just 7%, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. And if the Eagles win 3 of their final 5 games, that's it. They win the NFC East, right? Like they don't have to win out or worry about like Dallas kind of chasing them. They control their own destiny. Doesn't matter which 3 games they win. They just have to win 3 games and they'll lock up the division and be the first team to repeat since they last did it in 2003, 2004.
We would certainly take those honors, although like other people have said, it's like even if you make the playoffs and if Kevin Patullo and the offense is performing like they are, who knows how far they can go. But again, we will not give up on the hope. They maybe can find something here, get Saquon Barkley going. I think that we're in the same area as far as the first touchdown score.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm going all in on this being the Saquon Barkley breakout game, I feel like I have to pick him to be the first touchdown scorer of the game. If you look at the last time he was at that stadium against the Rams last season, rushed for 255 yards. The only other time the Eagles were at SoFi Stadium, they ran for over 150 yards as a team, with Jalen Hurts having 70-plus rushing yards. So it feels like whatever it is in Los Angeles, they get their running game going at SoFi Stadium, and I think Barkley's going to have that first touchdown in a big game.
There we go. I'm taking the same thing. So, and this was before we even talked about it and discussed it. Some people think that it's rigged or that we, have other discussions. We both had Saquon before collaborating or anything like that. So maybe that's a good omen. And maybe it's not. Maybe it just means that he's not going to do anything. So feel free to take that one. It hasn't been successful, as successful as it was last year. Last year was like a 4-week, 5-week streak of getting it correct. So, but Saquon Barkley, first touchdown score. Let us know in the comments your selection, as always, doing the giveaways if the Eagles win at the end of the game stream on Monday night. But whoever gets that right, one person will take away any jersey of your choice. So good luck to you there. Score predictions, though. That's the most important thing. Do the Eagles win?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going back and forth on this prediction. I mean, I think I even changed it from what I was going to say when we first started recording this. I do still have the Eagles winning. I think it's going to be a relatively ugly game because I think both of these defenses are pretty damn good, and both of the offenses, between Justin Herbert's injury and Jalen Hurts, and the entire Eagles offense kind of inconsistent play. I think it'll be a little bit of a sloppier game than many would expect in a dome and on primetime football. But I do have the Eagles winning 24-20 over the Chargers on the road.
Okay. All right. I like that. I'll take a win, like I said, however it is. I know that we would all wish like a 30-point game, a 40-point game, just blow them out and, not even have to worry about it. It doesn't feel like it's going to be there, as the point total being much lower than typical for this type of outing. But I'm I'm struggling. I didn't even have it before we recorded, and now I'm at this point where I've just got to say something here. I think it's also going to be kind of a defensive, ugly game, and I'm going to pick an ugly score because of that. It's going to be something really weird. I know this before I say it, but it's going to be 22-19. But the Eagles win. But 22-19, something really
that might be a
strange.
scoregami.
It might be. I don't know if it is, but I would predict something really weird. So we'll see. We'll see if the Eagles can get it done. I don't care what the score looks like as long as we get the dub. But same thing. Feel free to drop your score predictions. Let us know what you think. Agree to disagree. And come hang out during the game stream. Make sure to follow Anthony at Debona NFL, as always, for all the latest updates and injury reports. And if there's anything crazy, breaking news like that, obviously we'll be going live. But until next time, we'll see you guys. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Like I should